Hello and welcome to Flashback Generations. My name is Sai and I'm here to give you my thoughts on Tyndall's interactive 2016 Battlefleet Gothic Armada. It's a real-time strategy game set in the 40k universe, closely resembling the rules system of the 2000s Battlefleet Gothic tabletop game. To my surprise, it's an extremely well-polished game. For such a small developer, I was expecting a lot less attention to detail in several parts, but the overall UI is extremely good. The voice acting is top-notch, which seems to be a staple success for all modern GW games.
Sir, I recommend dispatching some of the ship's armsmen to board Orbital Station Aleph and report on what
Unfortunately,
they find.
the cutscenes are not quite up to the same standard, opting for still graphics, simple, stylized animations. It's passable though, as the game doesn't rely on this method to tell a story. The artwork, however, is stunning. Really nice job, although I do find the beautiful art style clashes a little with the rest of the control panel. I'm 6 missions in now, and I'm still none the wiser as to why the map is relevant. Perhaps made more complex by having several different systems you can visit, all of which don't really tell me much unless there's an attack happening. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like this could be condensed into one map and perhaps have more information on planets and how they benefit me as a fleet commander. This game does a top job of introducing into the combat mechanics and doesn't shy away from telling you that it's a complex game with complex moving parts to it. I really like the slow mode combat. You really need that just to get your bearings right on who is where and what is going on. At times there is a need to micromanage too much, and this is on the earlier levels. I can't imagine what this will be like in the final levels when you have a full fleet brimming with upgrades and actions. This is one of the reasons I personally prefer turn-based games. So scaling ultimately doesn't matter. I mean, I'm sure in the final mission you have bigger ships that eat up your points, but it's a shame that having 30 small ships won't be an option. The ship model detail is good, although they all look a little samey. I suppose this can be blamed on the source material, but there is just something a little lackluster in places with effects and explosions. It's probably to do with the distance. I know you can zoom in, but then you can't play the game. It's just a consideration that turns into how the game plays versus how it looks. In each fight there's a sort of grid under it too. I find this quite distracting, along with the terrain and planets under and above you in the distance. Sometimes clouds aren't even obvious, and distances can be very deceptive. This is, of course, nitpicking, because the game plays quite smoothly. Early on you're presented with how gun arcs work and what your upgrades do, but it can be a little overbearing. I found it easy to have similar ships with similar loadouts, so I didn't need to overthink my fleet facing or optimal ranges. But this was also something that I think they miss a trick on. In the tabletop game, using various ships combos is a common strategy, and here the advent of ship and crew and specific ship can get very confusing quickly in the throes of battle. Of course, early on they addressed this with suggesting macro keys to assign groups, but I guess I'm just not that kind of player. Ultimately, real-time strategies are not for me, but there is certainly a market for them, and they do their absolute right thing by making this a PC-only title. There is nothing worse than making a terrible port for all the other systems. Anyway, this game gives me hope for a new Man of War game. As mentioned earlier, I'd prefer to be a more turn-based. Maybe instead of a slow cam, it's a pause cam, and you do your orders. The Total War games did a great job of letting you slow down the combat to get your bearings when necessary. If Man of War was a clone of Battlefleet Gothic, it wouldn't be a bad thing. Even though this type of game isn't fully for me, I'd highly recommend it and award it a 7 out of 10 for its brilliant system. But it's just bogged down with a lot of detail, and that somehow feels irrelevant. Cheers for watching, I'll see you next time.
Yes, Admiral.